Okay, so my name is Wayne Sutton. I'm the founder and creator of NeuroPersuasion, and we're going to jump right in tonight because, again, I've got a lot I want to cover, and I'm going to try to do it in a 30-minute window. So we're going to, again, I'm going to start from the very beginning. NeuroPersuasion is learning how to influence yourself, influence others, and impact the world. Let me say it again. You got to learn how to influence yourself first. Then you can persuade or influence others, and then learn how to impact the world. And that world could be you, it could be your family, it could be a business, a ministry, whatever it is, the world that you have been that you've been called to help. So that's what we're going to cover in NeuroPersuasion. We have relaunched this Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the time of this recording. If you're watching this on a replay, we may have changed that, but that's what we're doing at this point. So we're going to talk about mental reprogramming and design, hypnotherapy, a modified version of neurolinguistic programming, and timeline therapy, borrowed from Tad James, and other systems. This is active and passive programming. And what I mean by that is active. I'm telling you what you need to do, how you need to sometimes shift thoughts, belief patterns, language patterns, etc. But it's also passive programming. And if you're not comfortable with that, then I'm asking you to leave. Now, what I mean by that is passive programming means even as I'm teaching, even as I'm releasing some of this, sometimes when you're hearing it, I will be using language patterns. I'll be asking you questions. I'll be eliciting criteria. I'll be using anchoring and different areas that can help influence you to learn this quicker, learn this better, and be able to apply this in your life. Now, if you do not like the fact that I could be using the very same techniques while we're teaching you, then it's probably not for you. What is influencing others? Now, let's go back. That's influencing yourself. Mental reprogramming, design, hypnotherapy, modified neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, and more. Influencing others is really a persuasion and influence system that we have crafted on almost 30 years now of really working in Christian counseling, temperament therapy, and selling automobiles, selling homes, being in real estate, selling insurance, mail order, internet business, face-to-face business, you name it. We have been in that realm. And so what we've learned in persuasion and influence marketing systems, there's definitely a different system, different platform for marketing versus selling. And then overt and covert influence. And again, I want you to find yourself comfortable with this if you can. Overt means this is what I'm sharing with you. You need to take advantage of this. Covert means we're influencing and we're shifting belief patterns, which is really why you came here tonight. How to shift belief patterns to get people to feel comfortable and maybe even replace someone's limited mentality, limited identity with an identity that can go forth and you can help. So, and finally, impact in the world. Discovering your passion, your purpose, implementing self-discovery strategies, which we're going to begin with this evening, influencing others to impact others, and becoming a person of influence and leadership. Now, there's 4 levels of neuropersuasion. We covered this in class 1. First is mindset, which is more of what we're going to cover this evening. Second is skill set. Now, you see, I don't have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all important. Second is skill set. That's knowing, having the ability to shift people's beliefs, patterns, thoughts, and help people make great decisions. Third is effort. You can have the great mindset of a millionaire. You can have the skill set of the best persuader in the world. But if you do not go to work, if you don't put forth the effort, you'll never receive. And then fourth is faith and favor. I'm unapologetically Christian. I do believe my Christian beliefs are not something you have to agree with. At the same time, I'm going to talk about faith. I'm going to talk about favor. So, introduction. We're going to kind of bypass this tonight. I said we'll do more Q&A at the end of this. Now, for those, maybe you're just hopping on here really quick, or maybe you're watching a replay, you want to know more about who we are, yourpersuasioncoach.com. The blog is up. New updates are being placed on there. So Your Persuasion Coach, go check it out. Now, I'm going to go real brief through this too. Your program, where to go, where not to go, what to do, and what not to do. Every well-meaning teacher in your life has led you could have led you, let me rephrase that, from your true destiny. We live life on autopilot. I joked about the Roomba here we bought. I turn it on, and the first few times it hit everything in the house. Now it knows. It's almost perfect. It goes through and cleans the house and docks itself and recharges, and life goes on. because it's been programmed. Well, we've been programmed too. Where do we work? What do we do? What do we believe? What kind of income? Who do we help? Who do we ignore? All of this stuff has been programmed into us, but we have the opportunity to take back our life, to say, wait a minute, how have I been programmed? And I want to make sure that I'm moving in the destiny I've been called to move in. Embedded beliefs and destinies are lived out. That's what we're going to talk about this evening. Now, from birth to 7 years old, most of your beliefs are formed, and your temperament, which is really that inborn nature, is pretty much solidified. People say, what is temperament? I want you to think of, I have 4 daughters. I have 4 daughters and a son. There's some similarities, but all 4 have their own unique personality. And that personality is more genetic. Does that make sense? It's just born that way, inborn. However, we then begin to form responses to the daily life based upon that and our environment, which we can talk about this evening. What is your environment? Your financial life, your religious life, your family, your friends. You learn more from environment than you ever learn from others teaching you. You learn more from environment than you ever learn from others teaching you. So we're going to discuss how to recognize why you believe what you believe, what belief systems cause you to act or react, and how to reform those, how to eradicate some, reform some so you can live the best life. If you want to learn to invest in you, you need to invest in the best possible way. Now, we covered this last week, but it's so important because you'll hear me say this throughout for my private coaching clients, you hear me say this a lot. Initial automatic response. Your unconscious forms and holds these belief patterns based on what is right, what is wrong, and they shift your emotional state. When your emotional state is shifted, your physical state and your physical responses follow. What words alone hold an emotional attachment in your life, either positive or negative? And I'm going to show you a list of words. I'm not going to go through them this evening, but I just want you to glance. Even as you look at this page, even as you're listening, so I just want you to glance and I want you to notice what words bring a positive feeling, maybe pride, positive, that you want to you feel good about. And then what words don't. I want you to notice that, okay? There's the words. And again, without reading any of them to them, I just want you to say, which one of these words bring negativity? Which ones bring something that's positive? Just take a moment and look at them. And some of these have been words that have been documented or been debated for centuries, some more recently. They all can create an initial automatic response of at least consciousness, at least your thought pattern, if they do not respond. You do not respond physically on every one. So, how can a simple word create emotional responses inside your mind and even cause your personal physiology to change? See, the unconscious mind looks for patterns and assigns beliefs to the patterns for efficiency. If something's beneficial, then the mind says, yes, this is good. If it sees detrimental, then the mind will shift you away from that. Beneficial or detrimental really doesn't matter. It's the perception of. Does something feel good? Then the mind knows to notice patterns and react accordingly. So this is true for you, but in persuasion is 100% true for your prospects. So your prospects have predetermined beliefs and patterns of behavior in their own mind. So you have to discover their pattern and influence accordingly. We have to elicit their beliefs and help them by shifting their own belief system. This is something that you cannot learn with a sales script. This is something you can't do just by being a great aggressive, Okay. All right. So, and again, how do we do that? We elicit. How do we discover their patterns? How do we influence accordingly? We do this through eliciting beliefs, which we're going to cover in a later chapter, a later teaching, and by shifting their own belief system. But before we can shift others, this is important. Before we can shift the belief systems of other people, we have to learn how to shift our own belief system. Okay, so let's go into that. How do we elicit criteria? There's 2 ways. One is through calibrated questions. If I were to ask you, Rome or Sally or Robert, Tommy, any of you, that I've worked with or that I'm working with, that to certain questions. And as long as I ask the questions in report, I ask the questions in a way that not feel that do not bring up resistance, then you'll give me answers. And those answers not only help me understand how to persuade you, but they also begin to calibrate your own or shift your own consciousness. And then there's covert statements. These are statements where we don't even have to ask questions, but we make simple statements, and it begins to elicit positive feelings or negative. Now, with conversational influence and storytelling, it's also very important. Storytelling and metaphors. Those who follow me on TikTok and Instagram, I've been talking a lot about that in the last few days. How can we get into the sorry guys, as people are coming on board, I'm having to jump out. Please forgive me. So we're going to talk about calibrated questions and covert statements. We're also going to talk about conversational influence and storytelling. If you've ever wanted to truly go to another level, learn the power of storytelling. But here's the thing: it's not just storytelling. You can watch 1,000 TED Talks, and you can mimic the TED Talks. I used to watch TED Talks, then I studied the TED Talks. I broke them down. I studied what they were doing. I studied several books on public speaking, several courses on public speaking. Then I went and my hypnosis and hypnotherapy studies. We went through that. What words, what patterns, the cadence of your words. And what I realized was there's nothing more powerful than a story with the proper metaphors in it. And we're going to talk about that later. Now, we're going to talk about embedded beliefs. This is what we're covering tonight. So the mind, the neurological powerhouse, explained in everyday words. Number one, you're on here learning how to persuade this evening. We're going to talk about you first. Most people want to learn how to persuade others. But I'm going to tell you this, you've got to have your own state management handled, and you've got to eradicate limited beliefs, or you will self-sabotage. We're going to talk about self-sabotage tonight, how to begin to overcome that. And I don't believe it's more you can watch one class and overcome it. This is usually a process. But if you'll follow the process, you'll break free of those old patterns and you'll move forward. Now, you have to be brave enough to look at the man or the woman in the mirror and go, you are my worst enemy at this point, and say it in love. You got to be able to realize, what am I believing about you? Where's my identity? Because your identity will form every action and reaction. Your identity. We're going to talk about how to be brave enough to go into that next place. So, self-sabotage is number one issue. Guys, if you would hit the mute button, I appreciate it. We will ask questions at the end. Self-sabotage is the number one issue that our clients have experienced. I have counseled clients in ministry, in coaching, in sales, and I've actually trained over 100 life coaches. Everyone, when we go back and look, we did the case studies, we look at the actual testimonials, self-sabotage was the number one issue, and is most of the time not even recognized as self-sabotage. So, we talked earlier briefly, we talked about it a lot last week, initial automatic response. Everything happens. Everything happens. And so we have an initial response. I heard some background noise. My initial response was, hey, could you please hit the mute button? Yeah, pretty simple, right? So, initial automatic response. If we run into a stimulus, how do we respond to that? And because of the way that you act, and this is very important, I don't have it written down here, but it's worth taking note of. The way you act and react, that's your whole life. That is your whole life. The patterns that you've created in your mind of how you're going to act during a situation or react when something comes up. So it's the active and passive. That is really going to determine your life. So the question is it serving you? Are you walking in full? And maybe you are, but if you're not walking in your full destiny, you're not walking in peace, if you're not walking in absolute wealth, then is it fully serving you? Let's look at why it may not be so we can eradicate that or remold it, okay? There's nothing quite so damning as the internal desire to be right in all situations. I want us to get a hold of this. I see this in a lot of clients when I say this isn't fair, or I didn't do well in this, or I disagree with this. There's nothing quite so damning as the internal desire to be right in all situations. If we can get to the point of going, you know what? This is what I believe, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Then it opens up. Number one, it lowers resistance. It lowers resistance in your own self. But now you're able to actually study and look and see things from a different perspective. And based upon that first quote, the second quote is really easy to understand. It's always much easier to recognize the failure and shortcomings in other people. But can we see it in ourselves? Can we see it in ourselves? So I'm going to tell you a little about me. Briefly, I was raised in a small house, or small houses. We moved quite often because we didn't own anything. We rented this house or rented this mobile home. And then when whatever happened, my dad, I don't know why, but all of a sudden I know we're moving, and we moved to another mobile home, another one. Little rural county in North Carolina. What was in the county? Some industrial jobs, low-paying factory jobs, cotton mills. There was farming. Poverty was common. Poverty was common. I grew up in poverty, and later, especially during my childhood, later on, maybe I guess you would say middle income, lower middle income. But poverty was common. And I was taught, as many people were, stay in school, because a lot of people quit. Go to college. But I did not go to college just out of high school. I did stay in high school, but I didn't go to college. I got a job, I fell in love, I got married. I went back later to get my degree and to really move into the entrepreneurial realm. But I was taught, stay in school, go to college, work hard for 40 years, hopefully live long enough to retire. You know, I just helped someone the other day. I have a real estate, so I work in this realm, but I also have a real estate business. And I'm working with somebody in a real estate business, and they just recently retired a few years ago. And then realized his health was where he couldn't travel the world the way he wanted to. And his wife's health quickly failed because they waited until their body was older to retire, and now they cannot retire when they want to. So this is what I was taught. And I wasn't just taught this by somebody going, hey, Wayne, stay in school, go to college, work hard for 40 years, and you'll be able to retire. I was told that. But I was taught by teachers, parents, religious leaders, etc. But more importantly, I was taught by the environment. I want you to think back. I want you to, as you're watching this, I want you to think back, what did you see? The average income was $22,000 a year. Do you know? It's amazing. If the average income in your county or city or state or whatever, $22,000 a year, I wouldn't say state. I'd say a smaller area where you were raised. Do you know that most people stay in that 20 to 25,000? If someone is 50,000, then it's anywhere from 45 to 55,000. There's usually about a $10,000 window there when they move up and down. And the reason is that's what we see. When I remember one job I was talking to someone. He said, "Hey, what do you make per?" I said, "I make $7 an hour." I was working in this factory, working with sheet metal, and it was I still have scars from it. And he said, "I make $8.50 an hour." I'm like, "Oh wow, that must be how he got this new car. He makes $8.50 an hour." So $8.50 an hour unconsciously sounded like a great deal to me until I made $8.50 an hour. I'm like, okay, I can't live off this. So we're taught more and more by environment every day, and so are the people that you're talking to. So I work with network marketers, and a lot of network marketers will go to their prospects and say, "Hey, you can make $20,000, $30,000 a month with this, $50,000 a month." And that sounds good, but their whole environment, they've been indoctrinated that maybe $5,000 or $10,000 a month is the most they've ever earned. How can you bring me double, triple, quadruple that? So the resistance goes up, the doubt comes up, and they ended up not doing the program. You've been taught by your own environment. Well, now, I'm going to do an overview of this, but in the next few weeks, we're literally going to go through and ask very specific questions to understand your income baseline and how to overcome that. We'll get into more of that and some of the blind spots in the next few weeks. Now, I joked here, not really though, about small houses, mobile homes. But you know, in my environment where I grew up, the double-wide mobile home, or maybe a small ranch brick home was the pinnacle of life. Did you hear about so-and-so? They got a double-wide. It means they made more money. Or they got a home. They got a one-story ranch home. If they got a two-story, they were wealthy. We were taught to work hard, be nice to the neighbors, Southern hospitality, right? Which I agree with. But watch out for the rich con men. Those who had so much more than us. How did they do that? And that unconscious teaching, which is not just prevalent inside of these small communities, also prevalent in the indoctrination of television. We'll talk more about that in movies. Those who had a lot of money must have been bad instead of maybe they had solutions and they're good. So the embedded reality formed my goals and my dreams, and I'm sure it does yours. Until I met others who did not match the criteria I was programmed to believe. I'm selling life insurance, 20-year-old kid, in my early 20s, selling life insurance. A gentleman comes up to me and said, "What did you earn last year?" Now, this was 20 plus years ago. I said, "I earned $35,000 selling life insurance." And he smiled. And this was a man I had a lot of respect for. And I was expecting a pat on the back. Yay, good job. He said, I think it was actually like 33,000. He said, "Wayne, I tripled that Tuesday. Tuesday, when the stock split, I made a little over $90,000, almost triple." And I was like, "What? How did you make $90,000 in one day?" And he said, "You've got to learn to let your money work for you, not work for your money." But see, that didn't match this. That didn't match what these people taught me. But I still liked this guy. And he wasn't a con man. So it opened my eyes that I have to learn to discover. And ever since then, I've been on a journey to learn from the best, invest in the best, spend my time and money to be the best so I can bring it to other people. So this is actually from Gary John Bishop. I've taught multiple versions of this, but I like to keep it simple. So we're just going to grab a hold of these 3 ugly areas of self-sabotage are your internal beliefs about yourself, other people in your life. Take a screenshot, write this down, because anytime you look, how do you see yourself? The man or woman in the mirror is going to determine how you act. I remember the first time I sold a coaching program for myself that was a little over $5,000, and I was like blown away because it almost came out. It came out of my mouth, and I thought, "Oh wow, there's no way that person's going to pay that. I know I can bring the goods. I know I can bring the goods, but are they going to pay it?" And then I was selling a coaching program for someone else. And I remember it was 5,000, and I was like, "They're never going to do it." And they said, "Let me grab my Discover card." And then it was 10,000, then it was 15, then it was 20, then it was 24,000. And I realized if you bring value, people will compensate you. But see, I didn't have it in my own. See, right here, number one, yourself. I'd never spent, I have since, but I'd never spent that kind of money. So I didn't believe other people would, because we view other people based on our own filter of our own life. So how you see yourself is number one. That's why we're going to spend a lot of time on NeuroPersuasion to actually reprogram that. Yes, for some of you, it's just going to be doing simple quizzes and grabbing a hold of some of the exercises. For some of you, we're going to go into a deep hypnotic trance. If you're open, we'll have a hot seat. We'll take you in, and we're going to go deep, and we're going to uncover some of those belief systems and eradicate them. But what you believe about yourself is number one. Number two, what you believe about other people. Do you believe that people are good? Do you believe people are bad? Do you believe people are out to get you? Do you believe people are there to help you? Do you find yourself believing, I want to invest with the best, or do you feel like everybody's got their own journey to learn? What do you believe about yourself, and what do you believe about other people? And then finally, life itself. Life itself. Like I said, I'm a Christian. I believe that I've been given this life. I believe I have a purpose and destiny. I believe I'm doing it right now. I believe part of my life, part of my divine calling is to help people uncover their own limited beliefs, overcome them, and help people discover what they can do, because the world will tell you what you can't. Okay? So what do you believe about life? I want you to ask yourself that. We're going to do Q&A later, but I want you to ask yourself, what do I believe about life itself? We'll spend more time because it's foundational. Every belief will activate an internal thought process. It will activate an initial automatic response. And we'll show you how some of those are good. Some of those are meant to protect you. Some of those are going to be dangerous, and we'll learn how to eradicate them. Now, we spend most of our time, most of our life as psychics and fortune tellers. Maybe not really. I mean, we don't have a neon sign that's, glowing with the palm, $5 palm readings. But most of the time we do this. And how do we do this? How do we unknowingly spend most of our time as psychics and fortune tellers? Apologize. Let me jump back into here. Okay, how do we do that? We do this by simply, and this is what I want to cover more into next week, but I'm going to give you a little preview here. We spend most of our time living out the patterns of what we think is going to happen. This is what happened in the past. This is what I've seen other people live through. So I believe this is what's going to happen to me. So we live our life. We'll say, hey, when you get older, things don't work the way they used to work. This is going to happen. Hey, if you buy this car, as soon as you get it paid for, it's going to start breaking down. All of the little cliches. And we expect this. We create our own reality. And I'm not sure if Abraham Lincoln said this, or he just gets the credit a lot on Facebook memes. But it said the best way to create your future, the best way to predict your future is to create your future. That's what I want to help you do. I want to help you predict your future by creating your future. Because if I can get you to think the right way, we can eradicate limited beliefs. We walk into more of a abundance mindset. If we can recognize fears and failures that maybe we've seen in the past and that unconsciously hold us back, we can eradicate those, then we can walk into favor. We can walk into abundance. But we follow patterns. We follow patterns. That's why you can look at someone and go, oh, I know what's going to happen in their life. You know what? For a big part of the society, it's so true. Tony Robbins said, I can look out and tell you what your rituals are. For those who are thin and cut and trim, and your ritual is you probably eat well, you probably exercise well. You can look at somebody that's 200 pounds overweight and go, hey, your ritual is you probably don't exercise well, you probably don't eat well. Not 100% of cases this is going to be true, but it's going to be true in over 95% of the cases. Because our brain recognizes a pattern. Oh, here's a car salesman. Let me bid on my guard. Oh, I'm just looking. We're not looking today. You walk into the store. May I help you? I'm just looking. But then there's times in your life. So you recognize that pattern. And you put up a stop sign. And it could be exactly what you need to help you. We also recognize, hey, I want to become better. You've taken time this evening to be here to learn about NeuroPersuasion. So in doing so, you've sought out truth. You've sought out better way to build your life. And in doing that, this is so important. In doing that, you're saying this is the pattern I expect from this. And you could be right. You could be wrong. So let's not become a psychic fortune teller. If we're going to be, we're going to predict by creating. I want you to write that down. I can predict my future by creating. And even for my fellow Christians, it is biblical. As a man believes in his heart, so is he. As a man believes, truly believes, so is he. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to turn it over for questions in a minute. I do want to tell you really quick, we do have semi-private group. This is our semi-private and private coaching with NeuroPersuasion. Semi-private group sessions, we do a 3-week on, 1 week off. That means for 3 weeks, we're going to meet, not on this call, but actually a private coaching call where we go through all the techniques, and we're going to work with you in those semi-private group sessions. It is semi-private, which means they're small groups. You'll be in there with other people. You'll be learning. You'll be doing this for 3 weeks in a row, and then the 4th week is implementation. We're going to take everything we taught you, and we're going to give your consciousness and your unconscious time to marinate, implement, and look at results. Then we're going to come back the following month, and we're going to look at the results, and we're going to help tweak that along the way. We also have a hybrid group and private, which means you will be part of the group sessions. You also have one-on call with me each month. So we can really dive into your belief system, your persuasion, with your sales, marketing, whatever. We may work on sales language. We may work on processes in that, or we may jump into your own internal, depending on where you're at. Inner Circle, we only have 2 spots left at the time of this recording. The Inner Circle is you'll work with me each week for 3 weeks in a row, as well as the private sessions, as well as some face-to-face time, one-on-one. We'll do some face-to-face. You'll fly to me, I'll fly to you. We're going to really transform your life, and there's only 2 spots. So really quick, go to yourpersuasioncoach.com, or you can text 910-233-2511. That is my personal mobile number. I don't hide. And the reason I can give that out is we only work with a handful of clients at any given time, mainly by referral, but we are opening this up. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. And here's my homework for you guys. Here's my homework. I want you to think back. Number one, grab a picture of this or write this down. But I want you to ask yourself, who has influenced you? And listen, it doesn't mean it was bad. Your mom, your dad. I was raised with a mom and dad. My mother died. I was raised with aunt and uncles, 2 different sets of aunt and uncles, back to my dad. So I had a lot of different belief systems, a lot of different mentalities that were poured into me verbally, and just because I was indoctrinated by being in that. So who has told you what to believe? And are you willing to really discover the truth for yourself? That's my question for you. Now, I'm going to open up. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open up and go to... I'm going to stop the recording. For those who are watching this, maybe a replay on YouTube or inside of your email or something, be sure to jump on the next call because you get the Q&A if you come on live. So let me stop the recording.